They told us the Federation's archives were complete. That history was curated, perfected, sanitized. But tonight, one woman will discover the one file that was never meant to be opened. A warning buried for centuries. Not about weapons, not about conquest, but about humanity itself. Cameras fade in on dim light reflecting across a subterranean chamber. Rows of alien servers hum quietly in the dark, their surfaces coated with dust. Flickering hollow runes hover like dying fireflies. Dr. Lena Morales had no business being here. The data vault was off-limits, sealed, condemned, its contents marked corrupted beyond salvage. But if there was one thing she knew better than anyone, it was how to salvage the unsalvageable. Lena leans forward, the glow of her handheld scanner painting her determined face. She pushes past caution, her fingertips flying across alien glyphs. She expected fragments of meaningless reports, artifacts from dead worlds, forgotten shipping manifests, trade records, planetary census lists. What she found instead was a file header that made her heart skip a beat. Text shimmers across the cracked display, words translated awkwardly into human language. Classified cultural contamination report, subject, humanity. Lena's breath catches in her throat. She knew she should stop. Close the file. Report the anomaly. That was protocol. But the word humanity burned in her mind like a live wire. The Federation's official history was clear. Humanity's first contact with the galactic community occurred only 2 centuries ago, when Earth finally built its first FTL drive, and yet this document claimed something very different. The translation matrix flickers to life, piecing together words written nearly 1,000 years earlier. Lena scrolls to the first page. To the High Council, I beg of you, destroy this record. For humanity is not what we believed. They are not a primitive species. They are not harmless. They are contagious. Lena's pulse quickens. Her eyes dart across the text, unable to look away. I lived among them. At first, curiosity guided me. I was a stranger. They welcomed me. I was hungry. They fed me. I was hunted. They hid me. Each act defied logic. Each kindness eroded my instincts. You must understand, I no longer act as one of our kind. I no longer think as one of our kind. I want to protect them, even against my own people. Lena's chest tightened. The words didn't sound like a warning. They sounded like a confession. The alien wrote of a strange infection, not biological, not technological, but cultural. A contagion of loyalty, of empathy, of bonds too strong to sever. It had a name, one the translation matrix struggled to parse. Letters flickered, warped, corrupted, before settling into a single terrifying word. Friendship. To them, it was a hazard, a threat that could override entire civilizations. Lena sits back, staring at the words in disbelief. Her hand trembles as she copies the file to her private drive. She had uncovered more than forbidden history. She had uncovered a lie. The Federation had erased the truth, that humanity's first contact had happened centuries earlier. And the reason they buried it was because humanity had infected one of their own. Her heartbeat quickens. She knows this is dangerous, but she cannot resist. She keeps reading. They do not conquer with ships. They do not subjugate with armies. They conquer with connection. If you allow them to spread, they will unravel us all. Lena exhales sharply, shutting off her scanner as footsteps echo in the distant hall. Someone else is in the vault. She slips the drive into her pocket, heart racing, and walks away as though nothing happened. She thought she had left the danger behind, but what she took with her that night would change everything. Lena Morales carried the archive out of the vault like a thief clutching stolen treasure. No alarms rang, No sentries stirred. The servers hummed on in silence, as though the chamber itself was relieved to be rid of the secret. Her boots echo against the metallic floor as she ascends the long spiral shaft toward the surface. She forces herself not to look back. On. Most nights, she returned to her quarters unnoticed. The excavation site's crew rarely spoke to one another. Hundreds of species, all working under one roof, each preferring isolation to awkward interaction. To the galaxy, solitude was normal. To Lena, it was suffocating. Her small chamber door hisses shut behind her. She finally allows herself to breathe. Her hands shake as she slides the stolen drive into her private console. The words flare back to life on her screen. They conquer with connection. She could have kept it hidden, buried it deeper, destroyed it entirely. But instead, she did the most human thing possible. She shared it. Lena's fingers fly across the console, encrypting the file, slipping it into a dark corner forum of Earth historians scattered across the stars. 1,000 anonymous scholars hungry for scraps of lost human history. She doesn't add commentary, doesn't explain the danger. Just a single line. Newly uncovered. Early contact report. Read with care. Then she presses send. At first, nothing. The forum was quiet, as it often was. Then, a spark. A reply from a historian orbiting Alpha Centauri, another from Mars disguised behind proxy relays, then dozens more. What had once been a sleepy archive of obscure debates ignited like wildfire. The aliens' words, their fear, their awe, their warning, spread from scholar to scholar, each of them realizing the same thing. History had been falsified. Humanity's story was older and far more dangerous. It didn't take long for the Federation to notice. Their surveillance was subtle, patient, but leaks of this magnitude always drew attention. Flags were triggered, queries sent. The Council's intelligence corps descended on the forum like carrion birds. Screens flicker across the galaxy, anonymous accounts suddenly deleted, servers scrubbed, entire discussion chains vanishing mid-sentence. But it was too late. The file was already out. Whispers echoed through stations and colonies. What if we weren't supposed to join? What if the Federation is hiding something about us? What if we were never safe here? Lena knew the Federation would come, but she underestimated how quickly. Her door hisses open without warning. Uniformed archivists step inside, not violent, not hostile, but with eyes that watch her too closely. They smile. They ask simple questions. Routine review, random inspection. Their voices are calm, their movements gentle, but their presence suffocates. Lena forces herself to remain still. Her drive is hidden. Her console wiped. Her logs altered. Nothing to betray her, but still. Their eyes linger too long. What terrified her most wasn't their suspicion. It was their fear. Every alien who glanced at her seemed unsettled, as though simply standing near a human now carried risk. One whispered to another when they thought. She couldn't hear. It's already begun. Lena lies awake that night, replaying the aliens' words from the archive. They conquer with connection. If you allow them to spread, they will unravel us all. For the first time, she wonders, was it true? Far above, in the core systems, the Federation Council convened. A dozen species, each older than humanity by millennia, debated the leak behind closed doors. Their chambers shimmered with hollow screens replaying the forbidden text. Some demanded erasure, others demanded extermination. A few, the quiet few, wondered aloud if perhaps it wasn't a danger, but a gift. But the loudest voices prevailed. Humanity was to be monitored, observed, contained, and anyone spreading the archive, silenced. Back in her quarters, Lena reread the alien's confession again and again. Every line carried equal weight: fear, awe, longing. This wasn't just a report. It was a love letter written in terror. The alien hadn't been destroyed by humans. He had been transformed by them. And that, the Federation could never allow. Lena clenched her fist. She wasn't a soldier. Wasn't a spy. She was an archivist, a translator, a nobody. But now, she was a carrier. The secret lived in her blood as much as on her drive, and the galaxy would have to decide whether to kill her for it, or finally face the truth. Secrets do not stay buried. Not in the galaxy. Not in the age of fractured networks and shadow markets. Lena's discovery was a spark, and now the fire was spreading. On distant stations, humans noticed subtle changes. Conversations cut short when they entered a room. Eyes that lingered too long. Friends who quietly stepped back. It was as if the entire galaxy had begun to recoil. Whispers spread that humans were not to be trusted, that their very presence bent the instincts of those around them, that their bonding was a contamination, and the source of the rumor, a single leaked archive, one that now had 1,000 copies. Lena Morales became a ghost overnight. Her quarters swept. Her name flagged. Her clearance revoked. She slipped into the underlevels of the station, blending among smugglers and miners, avoiding the eyes of patrolling drones. Everywhere she turned, she saw signs of the Council's hand. Terminals locked down. Historians arrested. Forums burned to digital ash. Yet still, the archive spread. Every purge only pushed it deeper, into darker corners, into hungrier minds. On Earth, scholars clashed on public feeds. Some dismissed the document as fabrication, another attempt to slander humanity. Others declared it proof that humanity's greatest strength had always been the bonds between them. Bonds no alien could comprehend. And in the colonies where humans lived shoulder to shoulder with alien neighbors, the effect was even sharper. An Urun worker refusing to eat near his human crewmate. A Tharian merchant shuttering his shop the moment human children approached. Entire friendships shattered in a single rumor. It was working. The Council's fear was seeping into the cracks of daily life. But not every alien agreed. Fragments of sympathy appeared in unexpected places. A Kalori envoy quietly leaked diplomatic notes supporting humans. A Thrin captain admitted, off record, that his crew had fought harder with a single human at their side than with 10 of his own kind. The galaxy was splitting. Some saw humanity as infection, others as cure, and in the middle stood Lena, the woman who had lit the fire. Of course, the Federation would not debate forever. They sent hunters, not soldiers, not assassins in name, archivists, silent operatives tasked with one thing: erasure. They would not storm colonies or ignite wars. They would simply remove, one scholar at a time, one witness at a time, until only silence remained. Lena feels their presence long before she sees them. Doors open half a second too soon. Footsteps follow a beat too long, a reflection in the glass where none should be. She fled deeper into the station's forgotten sectors, corridors no one maintained, lights flickering with age, and there among the rust and decay, she found something unexpected. Humans. Not officials, not soldiers, dock workers, traders, children chasing a ball through the dust, and when she stumbled, exhausted, into their circle, they did not ask questions. They gave her water, a place to sit, a blanket around her shoulders. It was small, it was ordinary, and it was exactly what the alien writer had warned of. Lena realized the paradox at the heart of it all. The Federation feared humanity because of this. Because no matter how dire the situation, no matter how little they had, humans shared, protected, bonded, even when it made no sense, even when it was dangerous. That was the so-called infection. And now she was infected too. She looked at the family around her, strangers who had taken her in without hesitation. She wanted to protect them, even if it cost her life. But shadows stretched longer. Through encrypted whispers, Lena learned the Council's plan. The archive wasn't just to be suppressed. It was to be replaced. A new document, forged with care, already spreading through official channels. One that painted the entire leak as human fabrication, a desperate attempt to rewrite history. If that false record became truth, humanity would lose more than trust. They would lose legitimacy. Their voice in the galaxy would vanish. Lena knew she couldn't let that happen. She was not a soldier, but she was a salvager, a translator, a carrier of truth. And truth was a weapon sharper than any blade. She rose from the floor of that forgotten shelter, determination in her eyes. The humans who had sheltered her didn't ask where she was going. They simply nodded, silently, handing her a repaired comlink. No words needed. They understood. The galaxy was fracturing. The hunters were closing in. And Lena Morales, ordinary archivist, carried the most dangerous secret in history. Not of weapons, not of conquest, but of humanity itself. And the truth was about to draw blood. Some truths spread quietly. Others demand to be screamed. And the archive was no longer whispering, it was roaring. Despite the Council's purges, despite their forged counter-narratives, the document refused to die. Smugglers carried it between stations. Students copied it into lecture notes. Engineers tucked it into encrypted schematics. It was no longer a single file. It was 1,000. A living chain of memory passed from one curious hand to another, and every time an alien read it, they hesitated. Because buried in the fear was something undeniable, a longing. The Federation cracked down harder. Stations locked down. Ships searched at random. Public feeds flooded with warnings. Do not engage with contaminated texts. And yet, every warning made more people seek it out. The Council had turned the archive into forbidden fruit. And humanity's story had never tasted sweeter. Lena Morales knew she couldn't hide forever. The hunters were too close, the net too tight. If she waited, the forged records would drown out the truth. If she moved, she would expose herself. So, she made a choice. The only choice a salvager could make. Not to bury the past, but to restore it. Hidden in the depths of the station, Lena tapped into the one system no one monitored. The emergency beacon relays. Designed to transmit distress, signals across entire sectors, they carried one rule above all others: no encryption, no delay, pure signal. Pure reach. She patched the archive into the beacon and pressed send. And across half the galaxy, alarms screamed, distress lights flared, and then instead of Mayday calls, a voice spoke. They do not conquer with ships. They conquer with connection. They call it friendship. Entire sectors froze. Ships halted mid-flight. Stations fell silent. Everywhere, beings stopped to listen. Some recoiled, as though the very word was poison. Others leaned forward, hearts stirring with emotions they had never dared name. And humanity, scattered among the stars, realized all at once that the lie was broken. The truth was free. The council chamber erupted. Screens filled with reports. Unrest in Thrin colonies. Urun workers refusing to dock alongside humans. Kalori diplomats demanding investigation. The archive had gone from forbidden whisper to open wound, and wounds bled. The council gave the order. The hunters would not silence forums anymore, they would silence her. And on the stations, darkened edge, one figure moved with purpose, silent, precise, carrying no insignia, no name, only a blade, and a single command: erase the carrier. Lena didn't run. Not this time. She knew they would come. She felt it in every shadow. Instead, she locked her console, tucked the drive inside her jacket, and sat at the small desk of her quarters, hands folded. If they killed her, the truth was already out. If they captured her, she would not beg, either. Way! She had won! The door hissed open. A figure stepped inside, cloaked in black. No words spoken, no hesitation. The blade flashed once, twice, and Lena Morales gasped as steel slid between her ribs. Her blood painted the floor. The drive clattered from her hand. The assassin leaned close, whispering words not their own. "You were warned." She collapsed. The assassin vanished, and silence reclaimed the room. But the truth did not die with her. Across the stars, the archive played again and again, reposted, repeated, reinterpreted. Every species who heard it asked the same question. Was this truly a hazard? Or was it hope? Lena Morales bled out in the dark. But her sacrifice had already lit the stars, and the Federation's greatest fear was only just beginning. In the shadow of a silent station, a salvager's blood cooled on metal floors, her body forgotten, her name unspoken, but her voice had already escaped. The archive burned across the stars like wildfire. Council censors tried to purge it. Every time they struck it down, 10 more copies rose. It leapt from ship to ship, world to world, in market stalls and in war rooms, in backwater mining colonies, and in the halls of power themselves. No one could unhear it. No one could unknow it. And everywhere it spread, a dangerous question followed. If humanity is so dangerous, why do they make us feel stronger, not weaker? Why do they fight alongside the broken? Why do they share food with the starving? Why do they bleed for those who are not their own? Why does their presence not enslave, but inspire? In the Krell Dominion, dock workers refused to load munitions against human colonies. In the Urun fleets, engineers left messages scrawled on hulls. We have seen them. They are not what you say. And in the hidden corners of the Thrin academies, students whispered the word friendship with trembling reverence. The archive was no longer a secret. It was a seed. And seeds grow. The Federation raged. Edicts declared humans officially untouchable, not for their safety but for ours. Any species caught fraternizing with them faced sanctions. Any colony suspected of harboring them faced military occupation. Any voice defending them faced erasure. The Council named it the Contagion Protocol, but they were too late. Contagions once loosed cannot be recalled. Scattered humans, watching from distant colonies and hidden stations, realized something profound. They were no longer forgotten. They were feared, yes, but they were also heard. And for a species that had been scrubbed from memory, that was victory. Lena Morales never knew what her act unleashed. Her name was not spoken in the streets. Her body was never found. But in the dark corners of cantinas, when smugglers tell stories, sometimes a name slips through. The carrier, the one who gave the archive to the stars. And though she is gone, her defiance lingers. In the Council's private chambers, a single report was filed. Target neutralized. Carrier destroyed. And beneath it, a final message. Words whispered by an assassin to a dying woman. You were warned, but warnings do not halt history. They only sharpen it. In the Council's private chambers, a single report was filed. Target neutralized. Carrier destroyed. And beneath it, a final message. Words whispered by an assassin to a dying woman. You were warned, but warnings do not halt history. They only sharpen it.